Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. You know, some people have an adventure in their lifetime that supersedes other folks, and because of who they are and what they've done. And we have such a man today with us, and I'm really pleased to have him here. He is an author. He is also a very learned man. I was kidding with them before the show that if I were to read his bio, it would take the entire hour. And to leave it to say that he is a art historian. He's worked in museums for 20 years, which I want to ask him about because I'm a bit of a history buff myself, and I can't imagine what it's like to do that. But in any event, Steven Welch is with us today, who's written the book, The One Who's Gonna See Through You. And that book came out in the summer of 2023. It's done very, very well. And it's a very unique picture of life if you go back to the 60s and 70s for a particular group of people. And we're going to talk about all that right now. John, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Well, it's great to be here, Kevin, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the one who's going to see you through.
Oh, you've been practicing that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I haven't read the book yet, but I need to. It's a really interesting premise that we're going to talk about because we also were kidding about being in the 60s and 70s, growing up then. And I did grow up then, and times were a bit different then than they were now, weren't they?
Oh, very much so. With reference to this story and this young kid growing up in Washington, D.C. during the 1960s, he's growing up as a young gay Black boy with a loving, illiterate father. His story is quite amazing. For example, at 10 years old, his father actually killed someone in front of him, killed a man who was threatening both his father and GJ, who is the main character of the story, and that stands for Gregory John, GJ. And so he witnesses this killing at 10, and then he has to be the principal witness at his father's murder trial, which he also does at age 10. And as a result of his testimony, his father is acquitted. So that was one of his pivotal experiences as a 10-year-old. He also, at age 10, was aware that he was different. Now, this was a kid who was growing up in African-American neighborhood, and everyone around him, his schoolmates and people in his neighborhood, somehow perceived him as being gay. And he didn't think they were wrong. He knew that he was gay. And so at 10 years old, he came out to his father. He basically told his father that he felt that, that he was gay and that he would be for the rest of his life. And he wanted to share that with his father so there wouldn't be any, deception or any confusion between them as they moved through their lives together. And so he came out to his dad, and his dad accepted that. His father was very atypical as an uneducated Black man who was, prototypically masculine and all the rest. But his father was never homophobic towards this kid. And so that was a very anomalous experience that he had growing up, in addition to, always being perceived and taunted and bullied and all the rest of it for being gay from a very early age. And so, that was his experience at 10. And by 14, he had begun his sort of gay existence. He became involved with a much older man who was in his 30s. and that relationship went all through his high school years, and up until the time he was 21 years old when he ended that relationship. And, along his path, he had gone to college at a traditional age, but he had dropped out of college by the time he was 21. And so that year, he also met the love of his life, a 26-year-old congressional staffer who was white and exceedingly well educated and very ambitious. And, somehow that person and GJ embarked on a great love, which would go on for many, many years. So 21 was very important. He also returned to college. He ended up getting a bachelor's degree from Columbia University in New York and a PhD from Princeton University. So, a different path of sorts for this young man.
Boy, no kidding. And not only was he gay and he was a black man, but he was also involved. And in those days, it wasn't really accepted to be in an interracial relationship as well. So
yes, that was also an additional anomaly in his experience. And of course, that relationship began when he was early 20s, so he would have been just at 1980 by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would have been, well, in 1980, I don't know if it's in the book, but 1980 strikes me as being one of those years that's when they discovered that AIDS was out there. And
Yeah, they did. And of course, that became public around 82, 83. They really started focusing on it and start having people coming down with all of the symptoms and eventually, starting to die.
yeah, it was a very tough time. And then they finally identified it back down to um, conduct and sexual stuff and all that kind of thing. And I want to leave that there. But I want to talk about. I love the book. I love the premise of the book. It's got some great reviews, and I hope people will go to. Here's his website, jswelchbooks.com. Go there, and you can get all the reviews from it, and you might even be able to buy the book from there if you'd like. And he might. Or not. It may be to go through Amazon.
Well, there's a link from the website to the Amazon author page, so you can buy it through Amazon, but you can get there through the website as well.
Perfect. So let's talk about one of your favorite subjects, which is you. Because you grew up at the same time frame as I did, which is you were contemporary of the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
And so you remember those days really well. It was a different time back then, and especially I'm surprised that a 10-year-old in those days would have even identified the fact that they potentially could have been gay, which is not a normal thing that 10-year-olds would experience even today. Where did that come from that he figured that out at such an early age?
Well, it came from his depths, from his interior. I mean, he knew, I think, and it's explained sort of in the story that when he was a very young kid, he noticed that he had these fascinations and attractions to males and to white men in particular, it was a pretty intense kind of fascination, and he was too young to think of it as attraction, but he knew that it was very compelling and it was very much a part of who he was as a person. He's also experiencing a lot of negative feedback in his community from people telling him that they don't use the word gay, but they use words that are even more, they use a lot of language that is bullying and so forth. But, they're telling him something he already knows. He knows that he is different. And they apparently know it and are very troubled by it, and that's something that puzzles him. You know, he doesn't understand why they're so bothered by who he is as a person, but he also recognizes that this is who he is as a person. And I think as he's, you know, a young kid going through the normal things that young kids go through in school with schoolmates, and a girl develops a crush on him.
Uh-oh.
And the thing that confounds him is, one, he doesn't understand why this girl developed a crush on him when everyone knows, including himself, that he's gay. But he also thinks to himself, well, if she could think that he wasn't gay, what does his father think? Does his father think that he's straight? Does his father think he's going to be straight? And so, you know, this is something he even goes to his priest with. You know, he says, what should I do? Should I make it very evident to my father, or very clear to him that I am gay and that I'm going to be gay the rest of my life? So he doesn't sort of go through life sort of expecting or hoping that I'm going to, you know, go this normal heterosexual route. And so that kid, you know, in that story, you know, is experiencing all of that between the years of like being 6 to 10 to 15. All of that is part of his journey. And of course, you think about him being in high school, and in high school, his entire social world is an adult gay one, as opposed to his peers being adolescents.
Well, it was in those days. It was a completely different world, and it's interesting. I have a good friend of mine who has been, obviously is gay, and he's been gay his whole life. He didn't realize it until kind of a funny story. His dad, and I don't know if you remember the old Playboy magazines.
Yes.
His dad had a prescription to Playboy. So his mother, when Playgirl came out, and I don't know if anybody who doesn't remember that was before like 1970 or 72 or something. There was nothing that was for women like Playgirl was, and Burt Reynolds appeared in the buff there, and if you remember, he was an actor. And
yes, I remember Burt Reynolds.
Yes. And so his mother bought a subscription to Playgirl. Because as almost to defend against, you know, her husband getting Playboy. So she said, well, I'll show him, and she got Playgirl. So he had an option. He had the ability to either read the stories and look at the pictures in Playboy or Playgirl. And he found himself being more drawn to Playgirl than he was to Playboy, which was just a natural way of being for him. He didn't even recognize that he was gay at that particular moment, but that was like his first real clue that he was attracted to people of the same sex rather than a hetero relationship or a man-woman relationship. And it's in those days, it wasn't something that you broadcast. I didn't. As a matter of fact, they did. I graduated from school in 1975, and there was not a gay kid in school, and we had a school of 2,000 kids. Now you know that's not true.
Well, of course, there was a gay kid, probably many gay kids in your school, but they were just unacknowledged.
And they didn't acknowledge themselves, and they didn't. They weren't. It wasn't something that you would just, you know, to say, I'm gay, and everybody else okay, what's for dinner? You know, it wasn't like that back then. And
no, it really wasn't like that back then. I mean, there was obviously people have been gay since the beginning of time, but it wasn't known. It didn't have the nomenclature it does now. There was no support system in place really within the heterosexual community. People weren't accepting, you know, all of the things that we all know historically that gay people have gone through. But it's really fascinating that in this story, you know, this young kid really recognizes that he's gay because of media and because of his environment, because he knows that when he looks at a movie, that any inkling or attraction or anything that a male would have for a female, he has for the males. And so he recognizes that. That sort of makes him aware that, okay, something is a little different here. And as he's becoming older and more mature, that never goes away. That never changes. And so he
nor
knows this.
nor would it, nor can it, because and I don't know if I know that you know this, but there are people in our audience that are under 40 that may not know. There was at one time there was a great big discussion about, were you born gay, or was it a something that you acquired over time or based upon your youth or whatever? And they've now discovered, I think pretty conclusively, that it is part of you, who you are from the moment that you're born.
Yes, I think that that they have come to that determination. And even anecdotally, when you look at people's lives and families and many things, many people have more than one gay person in their family, extended family, whatever. And as they have come to know their gay relatives and gay friends, they recognize that, oh, this is something that was with them from a very early time, from a very early moment, rather than the typical thing of, I think it's much more typical for people to recognize that they're gay in adolescence or when they're in college. Many people don't really come to terms with that until they're in their 30s or 40s or beyond. But one of the things that this book says, or one of the messages that it really conveys to its readers, is that, if you are a young person and you feel that you are gay, and that's very strong within you, that is a part of you, as much a part of you as your eye color or your hair color or anything else, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be confused by it. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to do anything other than just be you. And it's all right whenever you come to that recognition, whether it's early or late, or just be okay with you. So that's one of the things that I think GJ's story is trying to convey to its readers. And also because GJ wanted to write, and he sort of came to that pretty early too. I don't know if you remember, in the 1970s, there was this show called The Waltons.
Oh, yes. John Boy.
John Boy, exactly. Well, John Boy was really fascinating to the GJ character. He was a teenager by that time, and he was exceedingly attracted to the John Boy character for multiple reasons. But one of them was that John Boy wanted to write. And somehow GJ connected with that, because somewhere in his soul, he sort of knew that he wanted to be a writer too. And it would be many, many, many years before that dream was realized or began to be realized. But it's something that that the book sort of conveys to its readers, which is, if you have a dream, keep it in your soul, because even if it doesn't, if you don't pursue it right away, if you don't pursue it for many years, if it stays in your soul, eventually you will fulfill your dream.
And I couldn't agree more. And I think that is a terrific message of the book. And I was just, when you were talking about John Boy, I was thinking about, gee, who were your young television stars that I was attracted to? And there were actually two: Christy McNichol, and also Maureen McCormick, who was in the Brady Bunch.
Yes. I recall both of those characters very well. And It's interesting. There was John Boy, and then of course there were um, more mainstream movie stars, actors. GJ is very taken with Steve McQueen, and
Oh yes.
there are many actors, but always actors for him.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking with John Steven Welch, and he's written the book, The One Who's Going to See You Through. And I suspect the one who's going to see you through is yourself. And we're going to get into more of that when we come back. Need to take a real quick break. It's just 30 seconds, so calm down, everybody. And we're going to be right back with John Steven Welch and his writing. We also want to talk about his career in the museums. I think that would be a fascinating place to work. And we'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, everybody. And John Steven Welch is our guest today. He's written the book, The One Who's Going to See You Through. And we're going to continue with talking about the book in just a second. But I want to find out more about you, because you're a writer and you've also worked in museums for a long time. You're a very, very educated man. And that's why it would take so long to read your bio. How did you expect that of your life? And did you plan for that as a young kid growing up, or did you have an epiphany later in life?
No, I most definitely didn't plan for it growing up. As I had mentioned in the earlier part of the segment, when I went off to college, well, let me say, growing up with my father, who was functionally illiterate, and his character is also growing up with a functionally illiterate father. By the time he becomes high school age, everything about college is like foreign to his parent, and not so much to him, but to his parent, because his parent has never gone through high school and college and all of this. And so, no, GJ doesn't expect to go to college. He wants to, and then, he does his standardized testing and all of that in high school and scores very highly. And so he's being offered the opportunity to go, and he thinks he really should, and so he does. But he's always had this sort of conflict. This character does with both race and class. Ironically, he has no real issues with his sexuality, but he does have a lot of issues with negotiating race and class. So, as a kid of an illiterate father. So, by the time he becomes college age and goes to college, it's not a good experience for him initially. And so that's why he drops out. And then for me, my life is a little different, but I worked, did clerical work, did administrative work, worked in law firms, all sorts of things. And then eventually I decided that I wanted to pursue my academic career, and sort of went back to school full time, and then went to graduate school, and eventually did a PhD. But my life was not at all sort of straight flown, in the sense that, high school, then college, then graduate school. It was much more, I don't know, I guess you would say that there were epiphanies along the way that sort of set me on my path, but nothing that I was aware of earlier on.
And I'm willing to bet that your father, who was growing up in the the 50s or the late 40s and 50s, and educational opportunities for African Americans was not the same as it is, even as bad as it still is today. It wasn't as so there were lots and lots of people who dropped out because they needed to work and they needed to take a job that they could do, and they didn't get the education and stuff. So it was a real interesting dilemma uh, that his dad was in, because he didn't have the ability or the to go to high school and to go to college and stuff, yet he didn't deny that to his son. I think that's a wonderful thing.
No, in fact, as you'll see from the story, the father um, is just phenomenal because not only is he uneducated, his father is older. I mean, his father, this kid is born when his father is probably in his later 30s. And so his father was born like in the 1920s and
Oh, wow.
growing up in the South, and did not have exposure to, even as a grade school kid, didn't have regular exposure to education. So, his father, nevertheless, is very, very committed to making sure that this kid has educational opportunities, and that this kid is well housed and well fed and cared for and all of the rest of it. And he has a wife who abandons them quite regularly. So his father doesn't even have the benefit of a constant partner. So, the guy is really quite a phenomenon unto himself in the story, because he does all of this for a kid, a Black man with a kid from infancy all the way through. And he does it pretty much all on his own. So,
It's really hard to. I really wish, and I don't know whether that's being taught in schools, but to be a Black man in the 20s in the South was a very difficult proposition all by itself, just to
mhm,
stay, just to be alive,
yeah.
let alone trying to get an education, and it just wasn't available. And I don't know that we understand how much that has played into uh, the the uh, the culture and the evolution of all of us. What do you think?
Oh, I think that there is so much research and so much literature out there now about the experience on the ground of African Americans in the South uh, during that period. But I think a lot of people still, of course, don't know that story. They don't know all of the challenges and difficulties uh, that a kid like this guy's father in the story, whose parents or his grandparents in that case, were sharecroppers, and it wasn't like a school bus was going to come along and pick this kid up and take them to the grade school and feed them lunch and then bring them back and all of that. These kids had miles to trudge. Summer or in the winter, or to get to school, and their educational opportunities were spottier, and especially in the 1920s. So
So
you know
I think that really honestly think that we under respect the people that grew up then, and the character's father, who grew up and he wasn't able to read because it just wasn't available to him, and but he worked his entire life, and he had a young kid who he loved very much and wanted the best for him, and
yeah.
that's really a good role model, I think.
Yes, yes. This kid had an incredible role model, and really someone who taught him the significance of love and care and kindness and respect, even though they lived in a very rough environment. And the kid's father in the story is is a very violent man because he has to be a violent man in his context, in his milieu, but never violent to the kid, and always very loving, supportive towards the kid. So, a real anomaly in that regard.
Well, there's nothing like having your own child that can teach you different things. We were talking about his the fact that he was gay earlier, and I was thinking in my mind about Dick Cheney, the former vice president, who at one time was a very anti-gay individual, and and then one of his daughters turned up gay, and it changed his entire. And I really think that's part of the problem, is that we need to get together and work together and understand each other, and then have conversations with each other, regardless of who we are, so we can understand each other better, and so that we can take these misperceptions that we have and throw them out the window and start all over again. I want to talk about that when we come back. We need to take a quick station break. We're talking with John Steven Welch. He's written the book, The One Who's Gonna See You Through, and I think it's a great book, but please go to Amazon and pick it up. You can just go to John Steven Welch, and you can the book will be right there, and great reviews. It's getting great reviews. So we'll be right back after this station break.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I'm enjoying this discussion immensely. I hope you are as well. John Steven Welch is our guest, and The One Who's Going to See You Through is the name of the book. I'm not going to give away the ending, because the one who sees you through, I'm sure, comes to light at one point during the book.
Well, I think it does, and it's probably more than one person, but ultimately, I think it is the person who the story is about, who actually sees themselves through with the insight and the love and the care and the kindness of many, many different souls throughout their journey.
I think that's what it takes for all of us, don't you?
I think so.
It's important that, number one, that we recognize that we're all part of the same community. It's a human family, and that we all need to work together to be kind to one another. And even though we each have different experiences, like the totality of the experiences of growing up in the 60s and 70s or the 90s or today or the 20s and having to work real hard and not being able to read, we're all different, but we're all the same, and we can all be very kind to each other. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a message that we need to keep impressing upon ourselves and everyone that we know, because ultimately we are all the same as part of the human family. And ultimately, we all need the same things. We need someone to love and someone to love us, and as I think the Buddhists say, we need something to do and we need something to strive for. And so, we have that commonality amongst every human being, and recognizing that is really important. And whatever the particularities are of your makeup, your personality, your ambitions, your realizations, those fundamental things are still the same underneath that. And so
I agree 100%. Now, I did want to ask you though, because I ask a lot of the authors, it's like, did you know that you were going to write a book? Was it kind of an epiphany that showed up? Did an angel come down and tap you on the head with his wand and say, I want you to write a book? How did you decide that you were going to write this book?
Well, I decided that I was going to write the book. It was a combination of factors. One was since I had stopped working full time and I had a period of working as doing consulting, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I always had this idea that I wanted to write. And, there was an epiphany. There was a moment when I said, okay, well, the fact that you have stopped working full time at your former career could be an indication that it's time for you to embrace something else that you've always wanted to do. And that something else was immediately evident to me, and that I always wanted to write. And then the question of what kind of story I wanted to write really emerged from my reading. I've read a lot of coming of age literature. I've read a lot of gay literature, and I wasn't seeing a story that was quite like GJ's story. A kid rooted in the African American community, a kid who grew up gay, a kid who had a very anomalous sort of parental situation. I hadn't seen anything like that. And so I said, well, I think I want to write this story. And I did. I started working on it probably around 2019, 2020. And, I had a full draft by 22. So, it's.
And I really think that particular story that you're talking about a young gay Black man in society, I think that is underreported, undertold, and it's going to be very helpful to somebody who is actually in that or knows somebody who is in that particular position. Don't you think?
Well, I certainly hope so. I hope that it resonates for that particular reader, or for any reader who, who has struggled in some way with aspects of their identity or aspects of race or class. That's something that are themes that are really dominant in this story. And also, I hope that the book really speaks to people about the significance of dreams. People talk about this all the time, but I don't know if they really grasp how important it is to envision possibilities, to really dream. Because if you do that and you find one that is truly significant to you, and you embrace that dream and you hold on to it, you're going to find a way to realize it. And, it may be a very unconventional path to realizing it, or it may be a very straight-flown one, but you will realize it because it's within you. It's something that is a part of you. And so telling people to dream can be very hokey. It can seem, very trite, but it's actually a very significant thing.
Well, I hope a lot of people don't feel that way, because it's right there in my opening.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why am I here? What am I here to do?
Yeah.
What am I dreaming about? What is my passion? What do I really care about?
Yeah.
Because at one point in time, it's important to act on those things, because life is short. For people like you and me, it may not be, but for some folks, it's not very long, and so you need to take responsibility and to care for your passion and do what you do, because that's why we're here, don't you think?
I think so. I genuinely do, and I think it's very easy to be drawn to a path that you feel is successful, or that you feel is lucrative, uh, but that if what makes you successful or what makes you lucrative does not align with your dreams or your passion, then you're going to be a person who's ultimately unfulfilled. And that's a bad place to be.
And I've said this before on the show, and it bears repeating, that whenever you talk to a hospice worker and they talk about people that they are ended their life, nobody ever talks about money.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever talks about the career or the job that they have or how excited they are about that. They always talk about family, and they talk about passion and living their best life and not having any regrets.
Yes.
And regrets happen. My dad had a bunch of regrets, which is why I won't allow myself to. Which is why one of the reasons why I do this show is because it's important for us to fulfill our destiny, just like you writing this book. It's you're proud of yourself, aren't you, for writing this book?
Yes, I am proud of myself for writing the
you
book,
should be.
and I'm very happy for the story. I'm very happy to have been able to share this story with readers and with anyone who is going to experience it.
And the cool thing is, John, is that it can be 5 years, it can be 10 years. That book ain't going anywhere. It's now your legacy. And so somebody can pick it up from a library or the used bookstore or wherever they find it, and it's going to mean something. And that is an important contribution that you have made to humanity. And I want to thank you for it.
Well, thank you for saying that. That means everything to me.
It's absolutely true, because it's still like this show. Not everybody likes this show. Some people, well, I'm not going to go into that, but some people like it, and it doesn't matter. It's important that we do what is in our heart to do. And you being a writer, and especially writing this story, is important, and it's important to humanity, and it's important more so than anything else, John. It was important to you, and that's all that counts.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate hearing that, and I genuinely believe what you're saying. I really do. And certainly in my life, of all the things that I've done, and all of the sort of all of the striving and all of the plateaus of different successes, I have to say that writing this book is in a wholly different sort of category of my life. It is something that is exceedingly fulfilling, and I think that it's like I opened something within myself that is always going to be meaningful to me.
And the cool thing is that when your career was winding down and you were working as a consultant and you weren't working full time anymore, rather than just saying, okay, I'm just going to go sit on the park bench or I'm going to go play golf, you decided to turn the page into another career.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you get to do this for as long as you want to, until the day that you get to go home, or the day, for forever. And that is so important. And a lot of people don't pay attention to that. Now, there is one thing I wanted to talk to you about before I let you get away. And that is the character in this book. And when he's 21, he gets into a relationship with somebody who works in government. And I really would love to know, because he grew up in a household that did not have a lot of means, and yet now he's dating a young man that's he's a page in Congress, and he's well educated and stuff. There had to be a moment or two in your character's life when he felt less than, or wasn't capable of making it through that and to become who we ended up being. When we come back, can we talk about that real quick?
Sure.
You're listening to Positive Talk right here on the Brushwood Media Network, and we'll be right back after this quick message.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And again, welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And we're talking with John Steven Welch. She's written the book, The One Who's Gonna See You Through. And go to his website, which is jswelchbooks.com. Find out all about him, read the reviews and all that. It's great. It's great fun. And I wanted to ask you, because in the book, I was thinking about this because when I was 21, I wasn't very bright. And I had no earthly idea if I were to date somebody that was above my station, as it were, I would have no idea what to do, how to behave, any of that kind of stuff. Did your character in this book have the same problem?
No, not exactly. I mean, the GJ character, at the point where he met the Deckard character, is very interesting because the Deckard character, as you say, was 26 and a Hill staffer and from a wholly different background, different race, different educational level, the whole 9 yards. And yet there was not just attraction, but I think there was a recognition between these two people that they were soulmates, and which was very, very unusual because they were so different. They were both gay, obviously, that was their commonality, but in every other way, they were exceedingly different people. And yet they had a compatibility, an easiness, a love that was going to sustain them probably for the rest of their lives. And so it was very, just another very unique experience for this character after having had many other anomalous experiences coming to where he was now in the story. And, this person, you would think this person was just the most supportive person in the world towards the GJ character. And GJ was very supportive towards this character who was closeted. And of course, GJ wasn't. And GJ recognized that this guy had never been othered in his life. He was a white male who was perceived as heterosexual, who was, very successful, even at that stage, had been very successful academically, and just had no experience with not being gay, but also just not being perceived as in any way different or apart from the norm in society. And so GJ somehow intuitively recognized that and what that meant, and GJ's partner recognized that in GJ he had found someone who he had compatibility and love with that was always going to be. And so it's that kind of story I feel is very important. That love story that's embedded in GJ's life and in his story, I hope is very compelling and resonant for readers, because a lot of people, for whatever reasons, don't experience a sustained love in their lives. They may have many different loves, but they don't have one that begins early in their lives and goes all the way through their lives. And it's certainly not a lot of, that's very uncommon for gay men and gay men who came of age when GJ did. And so the fact that he found this love so early in his life and that it was going to be so sustaining for both of them is another hopeful thing that I share with my readers and trying to convey to them that, stay open to love and to the possibilities of love. And, that love may come in a form that is nothing you recognize, and nothing you expected. So,
Oh, exactly. Two of my better friends, or very good friends, they're a lesbian couple, and they've been married. And when I see the look in their eyes when they're looking at each other,
yeah,
there is a form of love there that I very rarely see in a lot of other people, nor do I understand it myself. I have another friend. He's been married. He just got married. He's my age, just got married for the 4th time. And I said to him, why didn't you just get a dog instead? This marriage thing doesn't seem to be working for you.
yeah,
And so when you can have the opportunity, and I don't care who you are, if you have the opportunity to love somebody that you consider your soulmate and they you, seize the day, take that opportunity, because it doesn't come around very often, and for most of us it never comes.
yeah. That's very important advice to share with anyone that really grasps that opportunity if it comes your way, and that person is there for you. Really, really hold on to that with everything within you, because you may not have a second opportunity for that in your lifetime.
Very rarely does your true love come around more than once.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, it just that's why I got a dog, by the way. Just so you know. But by the way, we're talking with John Steven Welch. You're a exceedingly educated and also a very fine interview, and I want to thank you for being here.
Well, I thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. It's been a real pleasure to get to talk with you and to share aspects of the book with your audience.
Well, it's and I got to ask you, because there's somebody out in the audience is asking, so John, is the character in the book you, or is he a composite, or is he some of you and other people? What do you think?
So I would answer that by saying the character in the book is some of me, and the rest is fictionalized. But yeah, the book is informed by my life. But the reason why I didn't call it a memoir is because it's not really biographical or autobiographical. It doesn't rise to that level. There's a lot of fiction in the book as well.
Well, sometimes we live our lives, and then we hope that our lives will go a certain way, and they don't necessarily. But then it'd be nice to think about it and to write it. Had it gone that way, it would have been it would have been a lot of fun. So I want to thank you very much, sir. You are wonderful. Before we go, I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Well, I just like the audience to know that the book, if you do happen to experience it or engage it, is really for you as an author. I create a story, and my greatest joy is to know that it's resonating for people in some way, or that it touches their lives, or that it means something to them. Or so however you interpret the story is okay. And I love that you'll have the opportunity to do that.
And the name of the book again is The One Who's Gonna See You Through. And it's cool because it may be a number of people. And throughout your lifetime, I would like to suggest that those people that are going to positively influence your life are brought to you for a reason. And sometimes they stay with us, sometimes they come, they make their point, and then they go. It's all important. But it's all combined for your best life and your best self. Don't you think?
Yes, very much so. That's so well said, Kevin.
And I really appreciate it. Now, there is one thing that, and I would really like your opinion on this, John, because something happened in my world today. 10 years ago, my son dated a young woman, African-American gal, and we kind of took her in, and she stayed with us for a while. And I gave her a car to drive, and we wanted the best for her. We wanted her life to turn out, and they went their separate ways, and he bought a house and they moved out, and I went my way, and they broke up eventually, and she had some issues with bipolar. She had some chemical issues and some things like that, and I really wish that there were places that she could have gone to get the help that she really needed. And today I was greeted in the morning with a call from the San Diego coroner's office that was asking for information about her, and if I could help her find her family. And because she had sadly, she had taken her life the day before, and it was so sad. And but in our society, the poor kid never had a chance, and I would love to see that change in a myriad of ways.
As would I, Kevin. The whole scourge of the way that mental illness is received in the country, and the resources available to people is so uneven, and really it just breaks your heart to see so many people suffering on the streets from mental illness, so many people who don't recognize it or don't seek help when they can. So, I feel for you. I know that it's very difficult to have known someone and to know that they sort of took their own lives. That's really difficult. So.
And it was so sad because she really, on her best day, I got to tell you, John, on her best day, she was a radiant soul.
Yeah.
On her worst day, she was not.
Yeah.
And the problem was that the really honestly, the help that we need to give people that have issues, the help that we need to give them isn't currently available. And I hope that changes one day soon.
As do I.
It's great. It's great to talk to you. I really appreciate. I had to get that out just because I want to honor her and honor her memory. I don't want anybody to forget who she is. So
I understand.
But Steven Welch has been our guest. Go to get his book, The One Who's Gonna See You Through. And I really honestly hope people buy the book, because it's going to mean something, John. It really is.
Well, I certainly hope it does. I really appreciate, again, Kevin, the opportunity to just talk to you about the book and about the character's life and about my life.
Your life is special, and it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So stick to that story, and you'll be great. Steven Welch, thank you so much for being here. Get the book, The One Who's Gonna See You Through. And I'll be right back, John. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.